Welcome, everybody. My name is Sharad Kut. I'm going to help moderate and help the session today flow as swiftly as it can and also as efficiently. We have about an hour and a half to accomplish a lot of things, but let me just begin with a bit of context for those of you who haven't been part of the process thus far. The United Kingdom is going to be hosting the 26th United Nations Climate Change Conference on the Parties, of COP26 as it's known. And the A.R.C Challenge Malaysia is an initiative by the British Council to aid that process. A.R.C is an acronym for Awareness, Resilience and Collaboration. So we've had a grant process and we had a forum, so the grantees applied, and then there was a forum that we had recently. And today is the third and final part of the A.R.C Challenge. It's the pitching session. So you know the theme is youth, climate change, and cultural rights. And the heart of today's event is, in fact, the three teams who are going to be doing a pitching to a group, a panel consisting of some eminent people, helping them take their pitch further and those ideas. So along with the pitching session, we'll have a breakout session that's going to go allowing the groups with certain panelists to go deeper into their projects. But just a quick recap of what happened at the forum, just to say that we had a wonderful conversation, and it was led by five really energetic young people. We had Tozi Chi, she's with the Asia Youth Delegation to COP, the COP process, athlete Don Perez with Reef Check Malaysia, Eliza Collins, who is a sustainable fashion and materials designer, Wendy Teal from Borneo Laboratory, and Shak Koyo, who is an indigenous artist. Next, just to acknowledge the really important role that the panelists are going to be playing today, because they're going to help the three groups think more deeply about what they want to do and take their project further. So I'm just going to list the six individuals who are on the panel. We have Dr. Haja Tella Zainal Abidin, she's the CEO of Yayasan Saim Darby. We have Romi Chayadi, who is the CEO of Instella, Zainaria Haji Johari, she's with Yayasan Hassana and leads the Arts, Cultural and Public Spaces division of that foundation. Florence Lambert is a cultural strategy and arts management expert with the British Council Malaysia. Malcolm Spence, who is an investment director with a Global Innovation Fund, and Matteo Ciampo, who is with Second Muse. Second Muse, he's a technical director with it and supports the incubator network, which is part of the work of Second Muse. Okay, so we have the teams. The teams are Weaving Hopes for the Future, Visioning the Future, and Storytelling, and Ripple. These are three teams that are going to be, as it were, the heart of today's discussion. I'm going through this at breakneck speed because I have exactly 5 minutes to do all this. And I'm going to be introducing very shortly the representative of the Asian Venture Philantrophy Network, or AVPN. That's another acronym you'll see in a lot of the material that you have. But before I get Prachi Seth to do her introduction, just to say, we're hoping this is going to be as productive as possible. There's going to be space for the audience to participate, but just to appreciate it's fairly limited. But still, please send your thoughts and comments and questions along, and we'll try to accommodate as much as possible that. And of course, we can send those questions on, even if we don't talk directly to them, or we don't address them directly. Now, very quickly, I'm going to invite Prachi Seth, who is a climate specialist and manager of the Climate Action Platform for the Asian Venture Philantrophy Network. Prachi?
Thank you, Sharad, and good evening, everyone. So I'm Prachi, and I lead the work on Climate Action Platform at AVPN. For those of you who do not know about AVPN, we are a network of funders and resource providers with over 600 members across 32 markets. So some of the panelists that you see here are our members, and we are proudly sort of representing them as well. Our mission here is to move more capital towards impact in Asia. So by providing social investors an opportunity to connect with key stakeholders across various sectors and markets, and to learn from one another and to find opportunities for action. We launched our climate action platform in 2019, and broadly now we cover close to about 264 members. Last year, through our platform, we convened 22 climate-focused discussions, leadership, dialogue sessions, etc., and published 38 original articles and publications that focused on climate. And we also showcase, we have a number of portfolio companies, about 50 of them, that are focused on climate solutions on the platform. This year, we will continue to bring the discussions around Asia leadership through our sustainable finance and corporate ESG series. We will also be looking at some of the Climate Plus initiatives in gender, livelihoods, and finance, and sort of continue the work that we do to mobilize capital towards climate solutions with a special focus on short-lived climate pollutants. As an environmentalist by training and as a mother, I think it is my professional and personal goal to help shape the world into one that is more sustainable and inclusive. Indeed, creating and cultivating a sense of environmental and social stewardship is a crucial aspect for sustainable development. And by equipping the young today, we could hope for a sustainable future. So this evening, British Council Malaysia and together with AVPN have organized this pitching event with young people in mind, the future leaders of our society. So we provide them with a platform where they can share their ideas and be more, showcase their solutions. So basically keeping the climate change and cultural rights in mind. I look forward to hearing more from these projects today, and we wish you a very, very good session. Thank you.
Thank you, Prachi, and you've just given us an additional 2 minutes. It's a very succinct presentation of AVPN's mandate and its involvement in this particular project. So let's get straight into the pitching session, because we only have 5 minutes for each of the teams before we listen to the panelists and their broad comments on the projects that have been pitched. So we're going to start with Weaving Hope, and then we're going to go to Visioning the Future, and we'll end with Ripple. So if the team lead from Weaving Hope can begin, that'd be great. That's Weaving Hopes for the Future. That's the full name of the project. Are you ready?
Hello, hi, I'm ready. Okay, hello, good morning, good afternoon, evening to everyone, wherever you are at the moment. My name is Nadia, representing Project Weaving Hopes for the Future, an arts and cultural response to the climate degradation, with a focus to empowering the Orang Asli or indigenous youth and women as constituents in climate action in the local and global spaces. We are a working team of stakeholders, including several indigenous women leaders such as Tija Hio and Anim Apeng, forming an advisory board to set a standard of a meaningful and active role in decision-making for the project. The indigenous community are vulnerable to climate impacts in 3 key aspects: changing land use, erratic weather patterns, as well as extreme weather events. These impacts are worsened by other factors. They are denied rights and sovereignty over their customary land. They face lack of indigenous land rights education within the eco-climate degradation context, as well as which led to eroded understanding of their own culture and tradition. And most of all, they are left out of meaningful from meaningful participation and decision-making processes. All these compounding factors reduces community resilience and influences a sense of identity loss among the community members. So to improve these conditions, we must invest in the creation of space for Indigenous youth in the climate movement. We propose creative output as a pilot to mobilize Indigenous youth. So this project is based on 4 pillars, that is education, activism, creative art, and empowerment. So through education, the youth will be grounded in climate change literacy, making that connection to the land rights and traditional knowledge. Through activism, they will be exposed to various initiatives to connect the world with their stories of struggles and solutions. This adds to capacity building for data collection, documentation to inform the public or influence policymakers locally and globally. Through creative arts, we will be reimagining our intersectional response to a sustainable and just world using alternative media. And for empowerment, we seek to the inclusion of young women in the Indigenous community for climate action, and also nurture collaborations between the UK and Malaysia. So the land is the centerpiece of this project. It is connected to the Indigenous identity, food security, and home, which all interweaving with the future of the community. Here, the Indigenous youth will document stories of Indigenous land, of the past and now, and at the same time, the weavers will utilize materials from the land itself to produce art installation to encapsulate the story of loss and hope in the warming climate. Right. So in the COP26 presidency emphasizes inclusion of vulnerable communities and people, not so just a few days ago. So the creative output is an important advocacy tool. It's an expression of hope and solution, moving away from victimhood, and it serves an active active participation of Indigenous youth in COP26 using alternative medias. The art installation, documentation, and creative content will be co-produced by the Indigenous youth in Malaysia, guided by many local and global partners. The art installation will be flown to COP26 venue to be displayed in November. The creative contents will be hosted online via social media and microsite, all connected to this art piece to provide background and context. To give you an example of the exhibition flow, this is the art installation and audience engagement setup that's going to be put out in COP26 venue that leads to a microsite detailing how the piece is being made, the materials and knowledge behind it, the people and the threat they are facing, that all ties back to climate, land, and human rights, as well as cultural rights. So this project is seeking aid in digital assets for the Indigenous youth to improve the documentation, communication, and ideation process. So the project also sees great value and potential in visual documentation. So your support is critical to co-create immersive, meaningful, and powerful advocacy tool in the form of art installation. Apart from improving Indigenous participation in climate negotiation spaces, with your support, the pilot project will help bridge the digital divide in these communities as well. Our long-term vision is for this project is to nurture meaningful collaboration between Indigenous youth, climate groups, as well as arts and cultural collaborators to reimagine narratives of climate action in Malaysia. So this paves the way for potential education, art projects or exhibition, collaboration, or for documentation and digitization projects across countries. So forming this Indigenous youth collective grounded in climate change issue is a long-term strategy to build the Indigenous Youth Caucus in Malaysia, which is a pilot to participate in the local, international climate negotiation spaces, all very much needed right now. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry for the lagging. I hope to catch you in the breakout session later. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Nadia. And of course, just to remember that, each of the groups will be with selected members of the audience, as well as panelists to have a deeper discussion of their project. Well, very quickly, the next group is Visioning the Future and Storytelling for Climate Change. Please go ahead, yeah.
Hi there, can everyone see my screen okay? Hello?
Yes, Jess. Yes, it's clear.
So thank you very much for joining us today, and welcome to our pitch for Project Vision. So that's the virtual impact storytelling in our network project. And I should just point out that that is the Vision and Storytelling Network. We just wanted to use this opportunity to launch the title for the work there as Vision. So my name's Jess Kemp. I'm here from the Social Enterprise Academy in Scotland, and I'll be pitching alongside Dajrik from the Social Enterprise Academy in Malaysia, and we'll be taking you through the pitch today. And then we'll be joined by our colleague David from the Scotland team as well in the question and answer session a bit later on. So I thought I'd kick off the pitch explaining a bit about what it is that we do here at the Social Enterprise Academy. So we are a global learning and development social enterprise. We work through a network of 13 country hubs across the world, which you'll see here demonstrated by the lovely coloured dots across our map. And what we really do across those hubs is support social entrepreneurs and change makers at any stage and at any place across the world. So they might be startup social entrepreneurs and still kind of understanding what the methodology is and whether it's right for them, right up to those that are looking to scale up their initiatives. And we might find those social entrepreneurs in the communities in which we work in across the globe. We might find them in universities and colleges. It might even be in schools and even nurseries. Wherever there is somebody with an idea and a passion to change the world, we're there to support them to make that change that they want to see. So I'm going to pass over to Dajrik now, who's going to take you through the project itself and what it is that we're trying to solve. Dajrik?
Yes, thank you, Jess. Assalamu alaikum and a very good day to everyone. So just a quick introduction about what Jess mentioned as Project Vision. Our broad angle or objective for this project is actually to support two fundamental groups. One is actually the youth, the young people, and secondly, the environment with the support of climate change. How we're going to do that is actually by way of amplifying youth voices on climate change challenges. And why? We took an approach that it all began with awareness. Let's make no mistake, right? We have to take responsibility because the cause of current climate change challenges and issues are actually caused by our current or our generation. And it is inherited by our future generations, which are the youth. So fundamentally, it only makes sense for their voices, their solutions, their views, their ideas to be heard in terms of how they propose to perhaps solve the climate change challenges, and it's amplified by digital. What I mean by amplified by digital, I'm going to pass back to Jess to perhaps share a bit more in terms of the program.
Thanks, Dajrik. So what is our solution? So we will connect 30 young people across Malaysia and Scotland in the fight for climate justice. And we'll do this through a virtual learning experience for those young people. So we'll firstly support those young people to come together to vision a better world and to really imagine the world that they want to see in the future. And we'll then introduce storytelling as a tool to connect the cultures across Malaysia and Scotland, as well as giving them the tools to really tell the story of their vision and of their initiatives. And we'll then create an online platform, a global impact festival to really, as Dajrik mentioned, to really amplify their voices, and to also create a plan for sustainability for those initiatives as we plan to create crowdfunding and seed funding opportunities for those projects. So I'll pass over to Dajrik to take you through the timeline.
Thanks, Jess. So just a bit of a quick run through of the timeline. As we speak, we already started to do our engagement and outreach. And this is where, we look partners, individuals, collaborators like you guys to be part of our vision, our network. What happens between May and August, that's when the 30 participants that is identified will go through the capacity building program around visioning and as well as impact storytelling. And then ahead of the COP26 events towards the end of the year, this is where we're going to launch the Global Impact Festival. Back to you, Jess.
Thanks. Yeah, so Dajrik mentioned there that the project kind of culminates in this Global Impact Festival, which is ahead of COP26. And we have quite big ambitions for that. We want to reach at least 10,000 users across the Global Impact Festival in order to really amplify those 30 project initiatives that come out of the project. And we also plan to raise 500,000 ringgits, and that would be to support the kind of crowdfunding and the seed funding support for the young people to come out of the project. And I'll pass back to Dajrik. He'll take you through that in a bit more detail and what we kind of need to scale the project as well.
Yes. So lastly, I think this is our key ask. We want you to be part of our vision. We want you to be part of our network, by way of providing ongoing support, whether it's through showcasing, whether it's through connecting, or even investing. What we mean here specifically around sponsorship to scale, whether the programs or also the youth project that might be coming out from the Global Impact Festival. Secondly, partnership for impact. What that means is actually we also look to go beyond Scotland, Malaysia, the ASEAN Pacific, or even globally as well. And fundamentally, if there's any one of you out there who wants to do, in-kind mentorship, crowdfunding platforms and initiatives like that for the benefit of the young climate activists, we pretty much, look forward to work with you. So, fundamentally, if this resonates well with you, is this something that you think is passionate about, that you're passionate about and want to work with us, we're happy to get you on board as be part of our vision.
Thank you very much, Jess and Dajrik. Now we're going to call a third. We're running a little late, but there's still a bit of time. So Ripple, you're up next. Please be mindful, Erica is sending time checks to you. So keep an eye on that. But yeah, please tell us what you've got.
Yeah, good morning and thank you. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. Is that okay?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay, ideal. Juliana, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so good morning. My name's Drummond Masterton. I'm from Falmouth University and I've been working with Juliana.
And I'm from BGBG Initiative. It's very good to be here today. Do you jump to the next slide? Right, so Ripple basically stemmed from the idea of wanting to solve the plastic waste issue in a very creative and innovative manner. The main issues that we wish to tackle revolve around the likes of changing the perception of plastics as a low-value material to something that can be part of the circular economy model, and also like using design solutions to trigger a positive environmental behavior. So we then got into the circular economy model and design thinking methodologies to help us come up with ways to address this issue. Through Ripple, we are basically challenging designers to shift their thinking from the end-of-life product design mindset and to encourage instead a sustainable product design solution. So now that we have actually created an innovative solution to the global plastic waste problem, we realize that there's a huge gap in making this a reality. Basically, what we learned is that we lack the right people to develop the right solutions, and which then leads to the Ripple project being the enabler to bridge the skills gap. If we could move on to the next slide. The design of the Ripple project ultimately aims to address critical climate crisis issues by creating economic and social opportunities for innovation, where we explore smaller scale and localized opportunities to use waste at source to enhance the circularity of products. We aim to identify design opportunities to increase the value of waste through sustainable product innovation, and thus creating mindset and behavioral shifts towards plastic sustainability. So what's more interesting is that, and this also leads to the project sustainability later on, is that we are able to tackle the skills gap that is faced by BGPG by utilizing the talents nurtured at Falmouth University. Through Ripple, these young product designers will get valuable experiences in solving actual real-world challenges that are faced by local social enterprises, helping to bridge the skills gap that is often a challenge faced by such enterprise. I'll let Drummond lead us on to the next phase and the continuation of the Ripple project.
Thank you, Juliana. Already we're seeing real learning from the Ripple project. So what has Ripple already taught us? Well, when you connect creative talent to climate issues, you find real innovation solutions. Young creatives are inspired by real-world challenges and challenge-based learning and excel in that environment. Yesterday, we saw some pitches from our students. 9 groups of 5 generated 45 ideas in a day. Imagine turning on the pipeline of the 1,000 design students at Falmouth into this climate emergency. So in order to do that, we're proposing EcoVector. What's EcoVector? It's a digital platform that connects entrepreneurs with creatives to develop eco-inspired solutions to climate emergency challenges. Why are we proposing to do it? It empowers entrepreneurs and students specifically by identifying exciting opportunities and issues for entrepreneurs, but often recognizing that they lack access to design skills to mature their idea ready for future investment or production. It inspires and engages students by tackling climate issues and providing real learning to apply their skills in collaborative challenge-based teams. And specifically, it addresses complex problems that benefit from cross-discipline collaboration. How do we propose to do it? Within the diagram, you can see that we would enable an app-based platform for entrepreneurs and social innovators to register challenges and opportunities identified from environmental crisis. Skill set requests would be tagged to projects using United Nations Sustainable Development Goals to enable easy skill matching to student skill bases. Creatives and from the educational environment would be matched and register interest to collaborate on a brief. These would be targeted towards service, graphics, fashion, and product design students. Design progress and discussion with entrepreneur would be hosted on a secure web service platform. Project outcomes would then be shared within this web platform to enable seed fund investment opportunities to enable scaling. There's the potential for eco-champions from industry to help leverage support and uplift and provide ideas towards commercialization. What we'd like to ask from you is app development and coding, web service and protocol tech, UX and UI inputs to help build the infrastructure, input on IP management and security, and how to engage investor portfolios by grouping substantial projects in areas to enable large investment. Thank you for listening and look forward to your questions in the panel.
Thank you so much, Juliana and Drummond. Okay, so we're now about 5 o'clock. We have 20 minutes for the panelists to respond to what they've just heard. And also, if you have any questions in the audience, please put them in the chat and we'll try to take them. Just to note that, because we have 6 members of the panel, we're going to have about 3 minutes each for them. But also note that when we do the breakout, you'll only be assigned 2 of the panelists. So the panelists, it's an opportunity for the panelists to speak to groups that they're not working directly with at the moment, right? So, okay, so let's invite the panelists. Let's start with Dr. Haja Yatella Zanabidin. Yatella, could you help us? What are your first thoughts on what you've just heard?
I think all three ideas are original to tackle the issue of climate change, and ideas coming from the young really means a lot. All the presentations were interesting, especially for visioning future for climate change, as well as weaving hope, very colorful and very engaging. I like visioning the future, the impact and scalability and the outcomes are very clearly stated in the presentation. I would like maybe weaving hope to improve a little bit on how climate change affects land rights and human rights in those ways, to make it clearer, to focus on the climate change factor. For Ripple, there's so much potential impact. It's just that I feel that it could have been brought out even more with a little bit more pictures and presentations to make us understand. I think maybe because it's very academic driven, lay people like me may not feel very drawn, but if you can actually create more pictures and more showcasing the kind of impact and scalability, because there is so much potential that I can see. Weaving hope, if there could be more impact and outcomes presentation, that would be really good. I think I've saved you 2 minutes, Sharat.
you did it well, at least one. Yatela. Yatela, because it's with Yais and Sam Darby. Romy Chayadi, Romy, are you in the room?
Yes, I'm in the room.
Okay, so Romy, if you could give us your first thoughts about the three projects. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful presentations, guys. I really enjoy the three presentations. Honestly, they make me want to be young again. So congratulations for those presentations. I just want to. I've been thinking actually when I was contacted by Prachi, how I can contribute to this discussion today. So maybe just one point for the three themes in terms of feedback. It's the longer term sustainability. I know you may not have thought about this because of the time frame required or given for this project, but I would like to learn more if you have any initial ideas how these projects can grow longer in terms of time period, how you envision. I notice here that the Vision project, for example, will be using sponsorship model. Do you have any further ideas about that? How to sustain that model in terms of finance? This is probably an area where I can be of a discussion partner probably. That would be my comment actually. I think these are wonderful ideas. Yeah, I would like to discuss further and know further about the longer term financial sustainability of each idea. Thank you.
Thanks, Romy. Again, I did mention 3 minutes, but please feel free. If you have any other ideas, I'm going to turn to the panelists now. Please jump back into this discussion. I would like to ask Malcolm Spence, who's with the Global Innovation Fund, for your thoughts.
Thanks, Sharad, and thanks everyone for the excellent presentation. Yeah, I'm very excited to see what comes of all of the initiatives over the next few months. I just wanted to start with Weaving Hope for the Future because it reminded me of an example of one of the most impactful art installation campaigns that I'm aware of in the UK was one delivered by the Helen Bamber Foundation in 2008. And this was an installation in Trafalgar Square in London to raise awareness about human trafficking. And there was a petition attached to that, and it contributed to the UK adopting ratifying the Council of Europe Convention on Action Against the Trafficking of Human Beings. And I suppose the reason that kind of jumped out to me is that you have this potential of the COP event in Glasgow to have your art viewed by decision makers. So my question to that group would be what would you want those decision makers to know? What would you want them to feel, and what would you want them to do as a consequence of interacting with your project? So just to be really focused on what actions that you would like them to take. But otherwise, I think that it's a model that I've seen work, and I think that Helen Bamber, the exhibition there was called Journey. It's a good example that you could look at in that instance. I'll be joining the Ripple breakout room. Yeah, really to go. I like to before building the technology. How do you know that the assumptions that are underpinning this innovation hold true? So I would just like to hear a little bit more how you know.
Okay, Malcolm, I think we've lost you. The sound is not coming through, at least not for me. So maybe we could look at trying to fix that. But Zanaria, if I could ask you, she's with Yayasan Asana in Malaysia and leads the Arts, Cultural and Public Spaces Division. What are your thoughts? And please be critical. I think the young people, then they probably have more substance and then can take tougher comments.
Right. Thank you, Sharad. Thank you. If this is Shark Tank, I will have problems selecting because all of the presenters are amazing, and I think it's all actually interconnected. So if I could start with Jess and your partner, I think it's amazing you got me at storytelling, because I think how the two nations could actually intertwine in your people like good stories, and that's your strength. The strength of this proposal, I feel, is the great content that these two Scotland and Malaysia could kind of take advantage of, and I think that could then lead to the creative economy in content, in filmmaking, in storytelling, podcasting, books, and what have you. So just my question to you, Jess, no, not question, just saying that I think you should actually look at any commonalities you might find out that, the two nations is linked far away in a faraway land somewhere, to kind of have, because youth they like to be associated with something, just the connectivity with, that kind of your heritage, because I'm big on heritage. And on Weaving Hope, Orang Asli, or I think indigenous people, we have, I think, 18 tribes in Malaysia, and I have this question in my head, like, how do you select? If you were to select the story, what would you select, and what's your basis of selection? How would you, and to also include, I would include livelihood in the arts as well. I mean, art not for the sake of arts, but also to connect to livelihood. So it's sustainability is a big thing, and of course I love technology. Ecovator, when I heard you, my head goes like, how do I apply arts into because arts is now heavily linked to technology, and very interested in what you have to develop and explore. And so yeah, I don't know how much I've saved, but it's super. I think all 6 is interconnected. It's one whole circular economy. I find, yeah.
Okay, I'd like to ask Florence Lambert, who's with the British Council Malaysia. Florence, your thoughts?
Right. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. My thoughts. I'm going to make a comment about the 3. I thought that there was a lot of efforts put into the presentations, the graphics, and in trying to be as clear and to the point as possible for all 3, actually. I also think that one of the key points that is also a commonality for the 3 project is that they all relate in different way, but they all relate to all of us. And they're very relatable projects. And they are also very different in the sense that they touch us in a very personal way. And this is why I think that they have a great potential for, you know, growing legs and arms. And so because they are not as, the usual environmental initiatives are either very tech or very, it's very rare to find something that is about arts and that is about telling the story of communities or telling the story of communities or even Ripple being a technique app. It still talks about design and it still talks about human values. So I really like that the three projects have this. They're very relatable to a lot of us. I would have liked to see a little bit more clarity as to, so Ripple was very clear in their ask, but not ambitious enough, in my opinion. And the others were also not ambitious enough and could have been a little bit more direct in their ask. So that would be my criticism. Don't hate me for it.
I'm sure nobody's going to hate you, Florence, but very important. I mean, yeah, this issue of ambition. And I wonder if the other panelists might want to circle back to this. I'm just going to give the last, I'm going to call Matteo to speak now, but we'll still have a bit of time for the other panelists to maybe address something that Florence brought up, which I think is quite interesting about the ambition and the clarity of the ask. Matteo?
Sure. Thank you, Sharon. Always a little difficult to be last after 6 smart people have expressed their opinion. Most of the topics have been touched. There are a few things. The first one is actually I really like the spread of solutions. So that kind of kudos to the selectors, the British Council and AVPN, to actually having covered a broad set of solutions. I also like the fact, which is often underplayed, of how important it is to create a movement, to kind of use different vectors to bring in and spotlight this problem that is incredibly urgent, but yet hasn't reached the level of consciousness across many audiences as it should. So those are kind of general comments. For specific projects, I would say what I really liked about waving hopes for the future, the idea of bringing in indigenous communities and also kind of giving voice to communities that are often the biggest suffer the biggest impact from climate change without having been part of the cause, and so of creating the problem. So this idea of highlighting climate justice and bringing benefit back to those populations is really powerful. Regarding visioning the future and storytelling, what I really liked there was the importance and the focus on the youth and the learning. As I said, once again, it's super important to actually make sure that the next generation is really fundamentally aware of the criticality and the urgency of addressing this issue. And the more global you can cover this topic and the more global your coverage could be, the better it is. I really appreciated kind of the ambition of scaling up in multiple geographies. And finally, for Ripple, which is obviously a topic that is very close to my heart, is what we are doing right now across Southeast Asia with our project, the Incubation Network, is reducing plastic pollution in the ocean. We're going to have more kind of one-to-one conversation. One thing that so generally speaking, kudos for attacking this problem. I would really love to understand in greater details, how do you structure this marketplace, if you will, this meeting place between demand and supply? What we've seen over and over again is that the value chain of plastic waste is long, complex, and fragmented. And so we would love to see new markets being developed like you are doing, with a keen interest in pushing demand. So understanding where we can generate demand. Who are your customers? What are the products that can be sold using the materials, the waste, the plastic waste that right now has no value. How do you bring that into the value chain, but also how do you sell to the end user the products that you are going to manufacture or produce with those material streams? So I'd like to kind of dig deeper into this topic, perhaps during our breakout session. And generally, again, I echo the other panelists in congratulating all the teams for their presentation.
Thanks, Matteo. Yeah, just two questions coming from the audience, Roshan, Kuban, and Andy Latau. I think they've been addressed within the chat. But Malcolm, you got cut off right at the end just now. So I'm going to ask you if you want to finish your thought or thoughts that you might have had, and whether you want to address the question of, you know, the ambition of the ask or the objectives of those kinds of issues.
Yeah, thanks, Sharad. Hopefully I can be heard. Yeah, maybe I'll take that question on ambition, because it's something we deal with quite a lot at the Global Innovation Fund. And I totally agree with Florence. I think that it's important to be very clear and explicit with your long-run vision of success, and then work backwards. List out all of the assumptions that will need to hold for that vision of success to be achieved, and weigh them up. Say, well, on some of these assumptions, we've got a high level of confidence. But for us to really pull this off, there are lots of other assumptions that we need to validate. And as an innovation funder, that's how we use our capital, to validate assumptions that need to hold for impact to be achieved at scale. So I think that's a mental model that we use quite often that might be beneficial to some of the participants.
Florence, you wanted to say something? You wanted to add?
Yeah, I also wanted, thank you, Malcolm. I also wanted to add one more comment about Ripple, and it's more of a question. Have you checked whether this already exists or not? And whether other organizations throughout the world are not trying to do something that could be very similar to what you are thinking about? That would be my first question. And if my second question, which is also linked to this, is if so, how are you going to cut out of the noise? Because there are so many apps, there are so many, how are you going to market this idea? How are you going to, so that's one thing that I wanted you all to perhaps either think about more, but if you've already thought about it, perhaps in the group later, you could also try to address that question that I have. Thank you. Although I won't be in your group, but yeah.
Atella, do you want to jump in there? Because I know you might want to kind of give a little more, push back a little bit on what you've heard. Please,
yeah. Okay, maybe I can just continue from what Florence mentioned about the ask. I think all three did a good job. They had on the impact some outcomes there, but if they could actually have gone into more of who would be the primary beneficiaries, how could this project go forward with a wider set of beneficiaries? And then, like, on this project, in their minds, with what they have right now, what is the kind of size are they looking for, and what can be done to actually make it bigger and more scalable for it to be sustainable? So as I think Romy also mentioned, that if we had more information about the impact, the outcomes, and what can be changed, and what kind of sustainability and size of the project that you can go forward with, the ask could have been bigger from that. But all the ideas I felt were very, very original. Maybe another thing, it would be the feasibility of each of these projects, how difficult the kinds of challenges that they would face, but they would have thought about it and would address it with certain mitigating actions to show that it's real, that they've really gone through it and made it something that they knew that there's not going to be easy, and they've put it forward to us so that we understand that they really know what the issues on the ground would be for us to believe in them, in the feasibility of the project.
Yeah, thank you very much to all the members of the panel. I think what's going to happen now, through the magic that is technology in the 21st century, we're going to be pushed into separate rooms for the next 20 minutes to get a little more granular in the discussion about the projects. So I think everybody's been assigned, and if you haven't been assigned, please check with the people on the chat function. But I believe, Erica, are we going to be magically transported to these separate rooms right now?
Yes, Shauki will be launching the breakout room any second now, and within 10 seconds, something will pop up in front of everybody's screen saying that you will be transferred to the breakout room in 10 seconds. Shauki, are we ready?
Yep, ready. I'm starting now.
All righty. See you guys in the rooms.